It's the,
Thank you.
my mother wrote to you class will, for the graduating class of 1959.
Loud as you can, Mark.
Loud as I can, okay, here we go. We, the graduating class of 1959, Salisbury Regional High School, in the village of Salisbury, in the county of Westmoreland, in the province of New Brunswick, being of sane mind, do hereby divide our property and bequeath same in the following way to pupils in grade 11 of the aforesaid school in the aforesaid location, who may use and dispose of the whole or a part of this aforesaid property in the way they see fit. We, the graduating class, do appoint and invest with the required authority the following executors of our last will and testament: Robert Tate and Pauline Beckett. I, Caroline Barbara Kay, do will and bequeath to Kay Killam the answer to the riddle that Fuzzy wasn't a bear. I, Kenneth David Lewis, do will and bequeath to Dale Geldard my blueprint for building a suggestion box the size of a coal bin for people with big ideas. I, Francis Arthur Huey, do will and bequeath to Alan Geldard my position as top magazine salesman in the school and hope it will help next year's grade 12 get the ice cream, as was the case in the past. I, Grace Eileen McDonald, do will and bequeath to Carol Kay my position as door tender and hope it will help you to remember the Porter scene in Macbeth. I, Chesley Keith Lewis, do will and bequeath to George Lutz my method of choking everyone in the lab and refusing to empty my generator containing chlorine until they promise to vote for me when I run for Prime Minister.
It worked.
I, Jean Marion Cochran, do will and bequeath to Pauline Steeves the ability to keep a diary less terse than Pepe's and Evelyn and much more interesting. I, Allison Russell Eagles, do will and bequeath to Gordon Killam this tip. When your literature teacher asks you about Grub Street, a street in London, do not confuse it with Grub Road, back road, as I did. I, Mary Elizabeth Boyles, do will and bequeath to Vera Jones my love of dancing, and remember to hum along with it. I, Valerie Bernice McWilliam, do will and bequeath to Lois Eagles my interest in Canada's armed forces and to Marilyn Ryder my ability in the lab to get a different colored acid than the rest of the class. I, John Ralph Murray, do will and bequeath to John Bainbridge my place on Salisbury's racket squad, that is, badminton. I, Darlene Ann Eagles, do will and bequeath to Lynn Cochran my becoming blush and to Geraldine Stiles my position as Mr. Dalling's little helper in the library. I, Frank James Sentel, do will and bequeath to Alan Jones my ability to be high scorer on the basketball team, and I also want Alan Ailes to look after Vera while I'm away. I, Evangeline May Teresa Thompson, do will and bequeath to Bertha Taylor my distinction of having gone to almost every school in New Brunswick, but to like Salisbury best because in the spring one can go smelting at noon hour. I, Eileen Esther Taylor, do will and bequeath to Judy Spence my love of cars, in quotation, not only Chevs, but one named Paul. I don't know what that is, but somebody does. I, James Edward Nicole, do will and bequeath to Robert Murray and Gordon Reeder my ability to arrive at school a few minutes late and thus escape being asked at least one question in literature. I, Gloria Dawn Tingley, do will and bequeath to Myrna Davis my advantage of height, which enables one to reach over the heads of the others and get the bargains at Eaton's on Dollar Day. And to Phyllis Smith, my recipe for good cakes. Just remember, it's so easy when you use less oil. I, Judy Treva Marks, do will and bequeath to Grant Lewis my talent of ripping the pages from my textbooks, thus enabling me to take a certain page home at night instead of carrying the whole heavy book. I, Sherman Leslie Hicks, do will and bequeath to Blaine Mitten my laugh, which has often enabled me to escape reporting because it gets the teachers in a cheerful mood. I, Garnet Rexford Davis, do will and bequeath to Harry Lewis my muscle builder books so that Harry may not only be a leader of men, but a follower of women. I, Judy Hazel Black, do will and bequeath to Merlene Lutz my public speaking ability, and to Sharon Keith my pleasure at getting a shock out of electricians. I, Robert Albert Hopper, do will and bequeath to Lauren Sutherland my quiet manner, knowing that girls admire the strong, silent type.
Not true.
That's what he said. Yeah. I, Myrtle Ernestine O'Brien, do will and bequeath to Gary Carruthers my musical talents, which come in handy entertaining the others on the trip to Macbeth. I, Humbert Arthur Beckett, do will and bequeath to Carvel Lewis and William Marshall my first aid book, which tells how to treat, quote, boils, B-O-Y-L-E-S. I, Larry Dale Henry, do will and bequeath to Harold Wheaton my job of sweeping the classrooms after school, and hope you will find as many interesting notes on the floor as I have. I, Mary Jean Steves, do will and bequeath to Louise Steves my ability to look attractive, but to be frank, with a capital F, about it. It's easy when you have your own quote-unquote beauty supplier. I, Ada Doreen Steves, do will and bequeath to Lenora Carter my preference of old-fashioned men for, this is in quotes, I've heard it said and often read of times when men were bold, but now under the moon they refuse to spoon for fear of catching cold. I, Douglas Allen Steves, do will and bequeath to James Canner my job as chauffeur for the teachers, and am truly able to say I drove them to St. John. I, Audrey Jones Steves, do will and bequeath to Peter Duff my love of fire drills, which help one escape a few minutes from class. I, Noreen Lee Johnson, on behalf of the class of '59, do will and bequeath to the upcoming grade 12 the ability to find as many reasons for having class meetings as we did, and also ways to raise money. And I, personally, do will and bequeath to Linda Burlock my love of watching Yogi Bear, and a pair of stilts to meet Port Elgin's height. We, the graduating class, do will and bequeath to our homeroom teacher, Mr. Dalling, all our old exams, hoping that he will grow rich by sending in some of the answers to My Favorite Laugh and In Liberty magazine. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand this 24th day of June, 1959 AD, published and declared by the above named testators as for our last will and testament. In the presence of us all at the same time, we in our presence have appointed 3 witnesses. Witness number 1, Larry Henry. Witness number 2, Darlene Eagles. Witness number 3, James Nicole. Signed, sealed, and delivered this 24th day of June in the year 1959, Anno Domini.